What's up, guys? MainManSWE here. Hoping you're all doing awesome. As always. And me, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Today, we're going to discuss an interview the Tekken director did, Katsuhiro Harada, with IGN, where he discussed some extremely interesting stuff regarding Tekken 8. And for those of you who would like to read this in full, I'm going to post it on YouTube in the comment section and in the description, so you don't miss it in case you want to check that out. But first off, he mentions that Tekken 7, as I was expecting, is about to hit 10 million copies sold. Tekken 7 is going to hit 10 million copies sold. So that is just amazing, and a huge congrats to us, you know, the Tekken community. It's the biggest hit ever. It's the biggest Tekken game of all time. Always compared to Tekken 3 and Tekken 5, who did like 8 million copies, 8.5. And again, you also have to include the DLC. This is the first ever Tekken game with pay $6 for extra characters and stuff, and we've had a lot of DLC. The game did so well that it motivated 4 seasons of DLC, and I don't know how much that's added up to, but I know full well they've sold a ton of it. Due to, I mean, the success of Leroy, Armor King. Say no more. So, when you watch this trailer, you know, Tekken 8 trailer, and you go, and you know, I couldn't believe it was in-game. It just blew my fucking mind away, obliterated my brain. That's money you see on the screen. That is literally the success of Tekken 7 you're watching right there. Tekken 7 did so well that the budget for this game is, well, probably significantly higher than Tekken 7. So, I'm so happy to see this, and I'm so happy for all of us and the community. It's just amazing. So Harada stresses in this interview that everything was rebuilt. Nothing was recycled from Tekken 7. And this is just confirmation on something I could see and that I touched upon in a previous video. That I watched this trailer and I was like, this is a new character model for Kazuya. And again, this is something they would recycle previously due to restricted budgets, limited budgets. You could tell they just imported animations, rigs, models. But I could tell here now Kazuya and Jin, they have completely new remodeled bodies. Their faces are completely remodeled. They've probably been obviously reskinned, rigged. Even the animations, I'm like, okay, so when Jin gets juggled by that electric, they've reanimated the float state of a character that has remained the same since Tekken 1. I can see this. And the block stagger, blocking, standing, everything has been reanimated. So this was best case scenario to me. Do you know what worst case scenario was for me, but I was a little bit worried of? But we would have this idea again that, well, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Let's just reuse those animations again and the models. But, you know, we're going next gen, so it's going to be slightly higher resolution and textures. That was worst case scenario to me. But no, they go the route of best case scenario. But I did not dare hope for. They've dumped everything. Nothing's recycled. Everything is rebuilt for Unreal Engine 5. So again, it's just amazing news and confirmation on something I could see because I have very trained eyes when it comes to looking at Tekken. So, right. I also want to touch upon. He also touches upon how Tekken used to break boundaries visually. It seems like we're gonna do it again. But Tag 2, Tekken 6, the graphics on release were pretty lackluster. And he stresses in the interview that he really wants to, again, see Tekken be this game that shows off, you know, the next generation. And the last time it did that, it was literally like Tekken 5 for PlayStation 2. Still stands as one of the best looking Tekken PlayStation 2 games. And Tag 1 on release was also so good looking. But that's a long time ago now. Like Tekken 5, that's 17 years ago. So Harada, again, wants to be in the position that, you know, a Tekken game actually has, you know, next gen visuals. So that's really cool. And he stressed also in the interview that the sequence we see here, Jin grabs the feather and the chain breaks. That is to tell you that, yes, in the story, as we've speculated, you know, Devil Jin is covered in chains. It's part of his Devil Jin look. Jin is breaking the chains. So he is, well, conquering the Devil Jin now. He's going to break free from it. So he confirms that. So that's something we're going to see in story mode. And he also stresses that he doesn't want to comment on netcode yet. And this is something, obviously, that's going to be one of the major factors with this game. We see more and more modern fighting games with super strong rollback netcode. This is where we hope that Tekken 8 also does really well. He has mentioned before in an interview that due to the engine of Tekken and it being 3D, he doesn't want to go higher than 3 frames of rollback. And that's a little bit worrying to hear because a lot of games go up to like, what, 8 frames? So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye out on. So no comment as of yet, but they sure as hell know that they have to deliver with the netcode. That is just a given these days. And he also comments on guest characters and says that it's something he wants to see stay. But he thinks people have appreciated the guest characters in Tekken 7, so that's a concept we're going to stick with. Interestingly, he actually mentions the collaboration with SNK. He doesn't mention Geese Howard specifically, but that's the character, obviously, that came from a SNK, Fatal Fury, King of Fighters. And that he still has a close relationship with the guys at SNK, a close working relationship. So this is where, okay, so potentially we could see Geese Howard return. It's a very divisive character, all 2D characters are. But I know that Harada has tweeted before that he would actually like to see Geese Howard stay. Because he loves the character. I also love the character. I know a lot of people dislike Geese, but I love Geese. So Harada's mentioned before that he would like to see him stay. And then he mentions in this interview that, well, guest characters are awesome. We're going to keep that around. And I'm still in close talks with SNK. So that to me tells me, oh, maybe there's a chance we'll see Geese Howard. Or it might be Terry Bogard or maybe Rugal. Who knows? But it's certainly interesting. And when he confirms that, yes, this is story mode, but that was obvious to me due to how it's presented. So this is probably a sequence we will see in the upcoming story mode for Tekken 8. And here's hoping again that, you know, the visuals we see here, to me, this is extremely ambitious. And I hope they show the same amount of ambition when it comes to all aspects of Tekken 8, because it is going to be a package. So I hope they step up greatly with story mode, that we are not reduced to a boring ass narrator journalist to tell us half of a story. And I'm sure everyone feels the same when it comes to that. And then he talks a little bit about customization and how apparently he feels that it should never have been a thing. They introduced it in Tekken 5 and he's like, he almost regrets it a little bit due to how resource heavy it is. It is so costly and takes so many man hours to give, sorry about that, I'm gonna play that later, to give all of the characters rich customization settings, because Tekken always has a shit ton of characters. So I guess we don't really know what that means. I'm pretty certain he is going to include customization mode because it is a staple now. But he also mentions that he's quite warm to the idea of modding on PC. He even, I think, didn't he even retweet the Elden Ring mod package that was made by some highly talented Tekken PC modders? I think he even retweeted that. Yeah. So it's not, they don't frown at all upon modding the game. It seems like he almost embraces it, and he says that they're so talented, the modders. But in my mind, I'm like, it's gonna be very difficult to mod for this game, I think. I think modders, they had a great game to mod for with Tekken 7 because, to be frank, Tekken 7 visuals on release in 2017 on consoles and PC, while a pretty good looking game, the character models were pretty dated. A lot of the visuals were quite dated. And I think the character models were probably lifted from like PlayStation 3. So they certainly weren't like next gen on release. Oh my dear lord, guys, please. Yeah, I think how are you gonna mod for this? You know, you could actually lift Jinpachi from Tag 2 to Tekken 7 and it didn't look too jarring. His Tag 2 model looked pretty good in Tekken 7. But again, it's due to the basic nature of the Tekken 7 visuals. How do you mod for this? I mean, are you gonna lift DBZ Fighters Goku and put into this? Or Tag 2 Jinpachi? It's gonna look terrible. So I think it's gonna be very difficult for the modders to accomplish the same high quality mods for this game just due to how insane the visuals are. But we'll see. Maybe the modders figure it out, you know. And then the final point I'm going to stress here, again, read the full interview if you want to, but he starts discussing the simplification you've seen in fighting games lately. DNF Duel, even Tekken 7 had one button win Godfist. Accessibility is a big thing. Fighting games, I honestly, when I think about like video games and execution, to me, fighting games must be all the way up there. I can't think of games with more difficult execution. Maybe RTS, like StarCraft, is probably the most execution-heavy game out there. But Tekken has to be way up there. Again, simply retreating in Tekken, like a Korean backdash, is just insane out of an execution standpoint. But just the simple fact of retreating efficiently in Tekken is a PhD in execution. So he stresses that, you know, simplification is probably here to stay and that it doesn't make you a better player. So basically an example of what he's trying to say is that even if you remove the execution when it comes to Korean backdashing, it doesn't mean that you're suddenly going to be able to apply a Korean backdash well. So there's no execution. You can backdash very quickly, but you still don't know the theory behind it. As a player with better fundamentals than you, even though you can backdash as fast as him when there's no execution, he's going to know when to apply it. And that's certainly a more interesting question than the execution, if you can do it or not. So Arada is trying to say that even if you simplify execution, that's not going to teach you the theory behind it. So even if they simplify execution, you're still going to be beaten by a stronger player than you. Right. And then in my mind, that's something you can do, remove execution, but you don't want to remove depth of a game. Because when you remove depth, you lower the skill ceiling. And when you lower the skill ceiling, the contrast between an average player and an elite player goes down, right? So you have to separate depth from execution. And the depth in a Korean backdash is when to apply it, right? So those were all of the, in my opinion, most interesting points of this interview, but I would recommend everyone to read it. And there's a lot of questions where he goes, no comment, it's too early. I think the interviewer does a really good job. He goes with a lot of questions where it's like, oh, you know, that's super interesting. He covers all of the really important topics, but there's many times Harada just goes, it's too early, I just can't comment on that, like with the netcode, for example. But really interesting interview, a lot of really good news for us, especially everything's rebuilt, Tekken 7 hitting 10 million sales, so really good stuff. And I'm just very happy for all of us. So thank you for listening to me and have a great day.